Here we're gonna make the code of conduct. So the task is implement, monitor, manage, and promote a code of business conduct and/or ethics for the supply management organization and for suppliers. So you're sourcing a component from a supplier located in northeastern China, whom you suspect is subcontracting the work to a company in North Korea. The North Korean company is rumored to be using prison labor and blood diamonds in the cutting edge of their tools. Probably don't want any of that getting out to the press. So ISM principles and standards of ethical supply management. Ethical rule of thumb: if your mother would be embarrassed by your conduct, it is probably wrong. ISM principles of ethical supply management: integrity in your decisions and actions, value for your employer, and loyalty to your profession. Companies need written policies for ethics, safety, and the environment. So a code of ethics, specific guidelines on gratuities, conflicts, reciprocity, human rights, safety, environment, and compliance with the law. Document retention and control policies, documentation covering applicable laws, environmental management, organizational structure and reporting lines, process and procedures for managing suppliers, purchasing process and authority, transaction dollar improvements, and commitment to community philosophy and philanthropic goals. Man, it's a lot of P's. The ISM Supplier Code of Conduct. So an organization can elect to have a supplier code of conduct that is distributed to the supply base. This is where ISM would have you start. This is the beginning of well, it's really kind of a template. And you can get a copy of this from ISM. I got human rights, health and safety, labor, business integrity, protection of information, implementation, all good stuff. PACCAR has got their own code of conduct, which a lot of larger firms do. So this is the PACCAR Supplier Code of Conduct. And it covers a lot of the same stuff that ISM is talking about: labor and human rights, health and safety, responsible sourcing, environment, data management, sustainable purchasing, feedback and violations. You can get that off the www.paccar.com website. Industry codes of conduct can provide insight into ethical issues as well as specific rules for members. So the ISM standards of ethical supply management are these here: impropriety, conflict of interest, influence, responsibilities to your employer, supplier and customer relationships, sustainability, social responsibility, confidential and proprietary information, reciprocity, applicable laws, regulations, and trade agreements, and professional competence. And you can get a copy of this from ISM. This is the latest copy here. And I think it's from 2021 or 2022. So here's all the same ones you were just looking at. And it just kind of goes through each of the principles. Personal behaviors, impropriety, and then it talks about each one of them. It doesn't say when this one's produced, but I think that's the latest one. Then there's the UN 10 Principles of Global Compact, which can be found right here at this website. And it'll go into each of them And it's got some downloads you can do. But there are human rights, labor standards, environment, anti-corruption. Those are the four major areas. And here's the global compact principles: support, eliminate, eradicate, respect, ensure, stimulate, consume, develop, promote, and fight. Laws governing issues in ethics. ISO and Sarbanes-Oxley both require that ethics training be provided and documented. Sarbanes-Oxley came about because of Enron, so this is why they were demanding ethics training. Not that it probably would have done Enron any good. Laws governing ethics: defamation, publicly made false and malicious statement. That's defamation. Libel is a written form of defamation, and slander is the oral form of defamation. So both libel and slander are subsets of defamation. Disparagement, one of my favorite words: making malicious or false statements of fact as to the quality or performance of an organization's product or service. It's called disparagement. Attempts to influence others to avoid buying those goods. Can't do that. Bribery, a gift of greater than normal value, more nominal value, given in advance of transaction for the purpose of influence the behavior of the other party. It's a felony offense in the United States. Both giver and receiver can be prosecuted. In the UN Global Compact Library, you can look up stuff in here. Extortion, obtaining assets, typically money, through coercion, such as threats of violence. So resist provides 22 example situations and responses, and it's available through United Chamber of Commerce. This is you can download this, and it just gives you these scenarios that you can role play in your company with for extortion. Got 22 of them. And it's here at this website. The ICCWBO. And conflict minerals is a disclosure requirement by the SEC, promulgated by the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, concerning minerals mined in Africa, also known as blood diamonds. Awful lot of killing going over in Africa on around some of these minerals, and they don't want you buying them from those guys. Disclose payments by resource extraction. So here's a compliance guide for small entities and others on conflict minerals. And this is from the SEC. And this, I think we have tungsten, gold, tin, tantalum, all conflict minerals. Diamonds. Customer-driven requirements. Often the organization may be subject to contractual terms stipulated by customers, which may also be applicable to subcontracts that purchasing initiates. Consumer products and services companies, customers are demanding that the companies have social justice and diversity programs in place for their supply base. Otherwise, they may avoid buying your products or services. PACCAR Code of Business Conduct. This is an intranet site, so you can't look this up, but PACCAR's got their own Code of Business Conduct in a number of different languages, sponsored by our CEO. But it talks about the code of conduct PACCAR wants you to have. And a message from our CEO. All right, ethical decisions are most likely to be affected by the fact that what? No ethical code of conduct is available for supply management professionals. That could affect the ethical decisions. Organizations rarely provide training on the subject of ethics. That could affect. Ethical performance should be based on the goods and services purchased by the supply management professional. That doesn't make any sense to me. And ethical decisions frequently span a continuum from moral to legal. I don't think so. I think it's A or B. And I would go with A. Oh, it's D. Oh, there you go. Ethical decisions frequently span a continuum from moral to legal. Ethics systems of moral principles and rules, including legal requirements. As such, ethical decisions often include moral and legal considerations. Well, that wasn't exactly how that question was written, but okay. United Nations Global Compact addresses all of the following except does anti-corruption, does environment and human rights, doesn't e-commerce. B, e-commerce, yeah. All right, let's do a summary here. 1929, the National Association of Purchasing Agents, NAPA, adopted the Principles and Standards of Purchasing Practice, Code of Conduct for Purchasing Professionals to ensure that purchasers applied their professional skills in accordance with accepted standards of conduct. So NAPA was a forerunner to NAPM, NAPM, which was the forerunner to ISM. The current ISM principles and standards of ethical supply management conduct were updated and approved in 2018. 3 overriding guidelines were established to encourage adherence to uncompromising ethical behavior. 2, to increase awareness and acceptance of ethical conduct. And 3, to emphasize the role of ethics when formulating decisions. Organizations and supply management departments should develop written documents that state clearly the organizational policies and procedures relating to ethics. Industry codes of conduct can provide insight into ethical issues as well as specific rules for members of the industries. And the United Nations Global Compact is a voluntary initiative based on CEO commitments to implement universal sustainability principles and to take steps to support UN goals. Global Compact has more than 12,500 corporate participants and stakeholders across the world, making it the world's largest corporate sustainability initiative. All right. Now we're going to go get some questions for L5. Looks like I don't have too many, only 5. Go ahead and get going on them. We'll cover answers in a few minutes. Okay, let's go find some answers here. Number 1 is Bravo. 2 is Alpha. 3 is Delta. 4 is also Delta. And 5 is Alpha. And tomorrow we'll cover our last group, our last section, which is on harassment.